Tuesdays with Murray, Chapter 4. Java Escobar was the coffee shop by day, speakeasy by night at the first floor of my apartment building. Whenever someone entered, brewing over the noise of blenders, the smell of espresso beans, often mixed with the unmistakable yeasty smell of a beer distributor from the night before, were the bells from a wind chime that hung over the door. There was nothing about it that implied that the person who made it had any more DIY knowledge than a kid who glued their hands together in art class, or an adult with the worst-rated Etsy store. The wind chime was just an ornate metal rectangles that hung off wooden discs like traffic lights suspended in the air. But Yelpers had compared the sound it made to the taste of cronuts and gave it better reviews than Java Escobar's coffee. People would make the trek here just to hear it. On this day, in addition to hearing them as I entered, I heard, "Would you close that fucking door?" Without looking up from the leather journal in which she was writing, Eileen, a chubby, facially pierced barista, had welcomed me to Java Escobar in its non-ironic hipster neighborhood fashion. Maybe the open door let in air that whistled through the gaping holes of her stretched earlobes. I don't know. I don't know much, but from what I can tell, when you have as many neck tattoos as she, your job options are limited to Ultimate Fighter, Gang Member, or Brooklyn Barista. Some jobs you choose, some jobs choose you. Her short chump temper could never be blamed on a lack of caffeine. She looked up at me and said, "Hey, Coffee Will," when she saw me. Everyone that worked here called me Coffee Will, because I was the only regular who ordered their coffee in none of their 10 minutes to make drinks with 4 shots of espresso. With its walls covered in bumper stickers promoting anarchy and militant feminism, local flyers tacked up letting you know about the bake sales and cat adoptions in town, and the fact that everyone here was trendy, this wasn't the place you would think I was a regular. I entered looking as unhip as a parent accompanying their kids to a concert and couldn't name a single band the coffee shop's playlist streamed. The official line in the generational sand that any attempt to cross over would only make me look older. I felt obligated to support this place since I had been stealing their Wi-Fi from 7 flights above for about a decade. The coffee was terrible, and depending on how long it had been sitting, could make you wince with each curiously hot sip. I faintly said, "Hello, hello," paid for, and picked up my coffee that was waiting for me. I wanted a cookie dough birthday cake pop, but I'm unemployed now, and I needed to start cutting corners. Plus, it's not my birthday. Maybe being poor was the fitness program I needed, but I don't know. There's a lot of poor fat people. All the tables were taken, but I saw Ted behind the vacuum-packed and caffeinated people wearing earbuds and swiping their fingers across the screens of smartphones and tablets. There had to be cheaper ways to be unsocial than a $5 coffee. As I made my way towards him, I was cut off by a girl in a black workout top and tribal yoga pants. It was Gary's neighbor, the vegan, who complained about his paintings and who taught yoga at the studio nearby. She stopped me, and in the trademark peaceful tone of yogis everywhere said, "Hey, try this. Does this taste like almond milk or expired half and half to you?" She reached her cup towards me like she was making an offering. "You want me to drink your drink?" I asked. "Not all of it. A sip. I cannot be drinking dairy," she told me. "I'm not going to drink your coffee." "It's not coffee, you V-neck fuck," she said, and stormed off, taking the namaste with her. That was weird, even for here, but I should have known better. I'm the only one here who actually drinks their coffee. Before I could process what had happened, Ted spotted me. "Hey, Will!" He sat on a bench made from an old pallet, behind a metallic table that I knew from previous visits had shit written all over it in Sharpie marker. They probably chose uncomfortable furniture for this place to encourage people leaving and freeing up the seats. Before I could sit down, he asked, "Whoa, that is a deep V. You're a V-neck shirt guy now?" It was all I had that was clean, I told him. "Nice chest hair. Very manly. What are you doing here? Get out of work early?" He took a sip from his coffee cup and winced. He must have thought this coffee sucked too, but since his apartment was only accessible by bus and not a subway, the urban equivalent to a cabin only accessible by canoe. If he ever wanted to see another human being, he'd have to go to them and drink bad coffee. Something like that. I told him. I'm glad you're here. I can use the bathroom, he said. Confused, I asked, You need me to use the bathroom? I'd lose my seat if I got up. You don't have these problems because you're a neurotic germaphobe and never use a public bathroom, he said. He was right, but it doesn't mean we neurotic germaphobes are without our own problems. I do when I absolutely have to, but I mean, it has to be really bad. Like when you have to pee so bad it hurts to walk, but I use the one here all the time. It's clean, they got flowers in there, and it's right downstairs from my apartment, I told him. You do steal their internet. It's kind of like you live in here. Behind his head was a flyer for a sex workshop in intermediate rope bondage. What puts someone at an intermediate level for that? Was it sex or not knowledge? Was it taught by a porn star or an Eagle Scout? My life is so boring. There's a whole world of weird sex out there that I am not a part of. And it's not that I want to be a part of it, but it would be nice to be asked. Then I remembered I was single now. I'm technically not even a part of the whole world of normal sex anymore. 24 hours ago I was employed and had a girlfriend. I lost blowjobs and a real job in the span of just a few hours. I'm completely jobless. This sucks. I can't be balding, unemployed, and desirable. I'm not rich, charming, or creative enough to pull off that trifecta. I'll be right back. Ted started to get up to use the bathroom, but I stopped him. Wait, I said. What's the weirdest thing a girl has ever asked you to do in bed? Listen to her poetry. He answered without having to think about it. This must have been some poem. No, like sexually. Have you ever had a girl, I don't know, ask you to pee on her? Sexually? Ted asked. I think that's the only way people ask you to pee on them. I wasn't sure, but I was sure. Ted replied, It stops jellyfish stings from burning too. He was right. I saw it on an episode of Friends, which has to be as legitimate as anything I've quoted from Us Weekly or Wikipedia. Did someone ask you to pee on them? You know, this conversation isn't helping me forget I have to pee. Ted was holding on to his smartphone like if he put it down, his heart would stop. Everywhere you went, people were doing this. Out to dinner, at baseball games, movies. But unlike those people, Ted was still looking at me when he talked instead of looking down at his screen. That's how you could tell a real friend from a digital one. No, that's just it, I told him. I never get any erotic requests. You know these women are out there, but where? Maybe you're just not an erotic request kind of guy. Women can sense these things. Women today, you really gotta bring it to their vaginas. You gotta be like the Uber of dick. Maybe that's why Lydia broke up with you. Maybe you're like the MTA of dick. Like, you're happy it's there, but you'd never choose it given other options. No offense. I replied, Well, if she did, that's not fair. She had a schizophrenic vagina. Her G-spot was always in a different place. It was like playing whack-a-mole with your dick. Of course, as I said that, the music had just stopped, and I'm sure everyone without earbuds heard me say that. The cute woman in a hat next to me turned her head and looked at me. Was she flirting with me? I really can never tell. Maybe balding and jobless is her type. It didn't matter. I couldn't date a woman like this. She had been having a FaceTime conversation on her iPad in a public place. People like that? Social terrorists. They don't deserve love any more than real terrorists. Either way, I would quickly learn that flirting was not the reason she was looking at me. She had, in fact, heard me say whack-a-mole with your dick and was no more seduced by me than a gluten-free vegan would be by a grilled cheese. Not that anyone would be seduced by a grilled cheese, but again, I'm terrible with women. Anyway, she reprimanded me without hesitation. As loud as she could, without shouting, she asked, How could you two talk like two old perverts right in front of my daughter? She unleashed on us with more conviction than every gay man has ever used to defend Madonna's later work with. Ted and I looked at each other. What the hell was she talking about? Where's your daughter? I asked. She's right here. She shook her tablet. I was having a video chat with her. She's 6, home from school, and sick, and the two of you are talking about having sex right in front of her. Whack-a-mole with your dick. What is wrong with you? She said it, and then looked back down at her tablet, as if we were supposed to just be a punching bag for her comments. I mean, as non-confrontational as I am, I was more than willing to be. But Ted, on the other hand, was not ready to let it go. What's wrong with us? Ted asked. There's a sticker right behind your head that says, I heart Gunts. Your daughter's been looking at that the whole time. And another thing, I held the door for you when you came in, and not only did you not say thank you, you ordered before me and took like 10 hours. You were asking a ton of questions about the whole damn menu, and then you just got a cold brew. I'm leaving, she said, rather nonplussed. Bye, Felicia, said a noticeably pissed off Ted. She stood up, gathered her things in a rush, and left. When she did, the wind chime rang, and I heard Eileen tell her to shut that fucking door. Seriously, I'm done with the whole door holding. I'm completely out of that game, mark my words, Ted said. Again with the door holding? Holding doors was a social convention Ted was frequently lambasting. I mean, I'll be civil. We're still living in a society, but there has to be limits, like a line of courtesy. But if you're behind it, or beyond it, you get your own door. All I wanted was a coffee, Will. And I stood there while she asked about every goddamn item on the menu. Okay, now I'm going to the bathroom. Ted got up, and he left. Now I was looking alone at the coffee shop like I had been at the deli this morning. Everywhere I go, I look like I have no friends. Not that I have a lot of friends, but I still don't want to look like I have none. I texted my neighbor, Claudia, to see if she wanted to meet up. She had read my book, but never told me what she thought. Maybe she hated it. Maybe she didn't want to hurt my feelings. I cared what she thought because she worked in publishing. Time was ticking, and I had to get this book published and selling before I got evicted. 2 teens immediately took the social terrorist's place with better vibes and a lot of tattoos. It's like they went to a tattoo parlor on their 18th birthday and didn't leave until their 19th. They reeked of pot, and it sounded like they were having the dumbest conversation that simultaneously made me want to eavesdrop, but also questioned whether or not I could possibly be hearing them correctly. I use the term conversation lightly, as it seemed rather one-sided. The tall, lanky one with leather-studded bracelets and a black and white checkered trucker hat, from which a big mess of blonde hair fell like Christmas lights, did most of the talking, while his short, fat friend, dressed in black jeans, a black t-shirt, and rocking a beard, did all of the listening. The lanky one said, Yo, the older I get, the more I realize everything they've told us is a lie. Like the other day, I saw something online about Helen Keller, and I was like, damn, that was a badass bitch. Couldn't see or hear, but learned how to sign language and shit. But then I was like, if she's blind and deaf her whole life, what the F could she have to talk about? The fucking dark? Shit, I could learn how to sign dark. So I tried to Google it. I got nothing, because they don't want us to know the truth. But while I was clicking around, I got linked to a video about Coco, so I clicked it. And the video starts out, Coco is a gorilla that can sign over 1,000 words and tell you her thoughts on life and death. And I was like, holy fucking shit. I am about to enter the mind of a gorilla. The next thing you know, the whole video is of Coco signing Tickle Me to Robin Williams, and her and Mrs. Doubtfire, they tickle each other for like 5 fucking minutes. And that's it. The video just goes black. I don't know, man. I mean, between Coco and Keller, something's not adding up, am I right? And shit, now all my targeted ads online are for hearing aids and zoo passes or some dumb shit. His friend just shrugged. But he continued, it's a fucking conspiracy. They just want us all to feel like shit about ourselves, like you hear about a deaf and blind woman and an ape doing all this amazing shit, and you can't even take a piss without dropping your cell in the toilet? Whatever. Yo, get this, ready to have a bomb dropped on you? Helen Keller? Hot as fuck. I was shocked. I mean, not to sound like an ableist or whatever, but I mean like, she never checked the mirror. She didn't see hot chicks on magazines. She didn't need to conform to the beauty norms of her time. I should totally start hitting on hot blind chicks. Like, they don't know what I look like, so they'll like the real me. I'll roll up on that blind ass like, sup, baby? I'm not a good-looking guy, but I feel like one. Use my body like Braille. Let's go back to my place. It's got a dope stereo and no fucking stairs. Blind chicks love a guy with no stairs. Plus I got that 20/20 vision. That's like a 20-inch dick to them. I'm like a one-stop seeing eye dick. I wonder what my nipples say in Braille. Probably Big Dick Johnson. He turned to me, having noticed that I was listening, and said, What are you eavesdropping on, Old Spice? I had been listening in on their talk for so long that I forgot I was, in fact, eavesdropping. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you got me. I was eavesdropping. I got bored just sitting here. I'm sorry. That's cool. This world has no privacy anymore. Who fucking cares? Besides, you've got to be a much better conversationalist than my friend here. We about to peace out, smoke a blunt, watch a movie. You want to come? No, I'm good. As I finished the sentence, Ted rejoined the table, probably wondering why I was being invited to a teenager's apartment to smoke pot and watch a movie. And knowing Ted, he may have been wondering why I was saying no. Shit. Well, you could at least then recommend a movie. Ghostbusters, I said. Ghostbusters? What's that? His quiet friend glared at him, but said nothing. He cupped his chest, like pushing up his pretend boobs, and then mimed a machine gun, but more likely a proton pack. Oh, that movie with all the funny chicks busting ghosts? Loved that shit. I don't know what made me more annoyed, the fact that he didn't know Ghostbusters existed, or that he thought its gender-bent third one was the only one that existed. No, I told him, that was a remake. The original came out in the 80s. Ted interjected, It's not a remake, it's a third installment. He said, Oh, that? I saw that. My dad made me watch it. That shit sucked. That one line was good, though. It's true. This man has no dick. It's true. That line was amazing. Bill Murray is amazing. Is this where my life had led? Unemployed, arguing cinema semantics with high teenagers and my adult friend in a coffee shop? Apparently it had. The new cast has no dicks, Ted said, and they high-fived and laughed. This kid not liking Ghostbusters offended me more than my best friend giving him a high five partially at my expense, but only a little. Now that you mention it, I remember some internet hullabaloo stirred up by some women-hating incel fanboys on Twitter that Ghostbusters 3 ruined their childhood and they should make another movie with the original cast. Me personally, I wouldn't care if every movie and show turned the men into girls. What the hell do I need to look at guys for? I wouldn't care if you turned into a chick right now. Shit, I'm starving. I like chicks who make breakfast. What time is it? 3 in the afternoon, I told him. Never too late for breakfast. So what do you have against women? Are you gay? My sister's gay. My ex-girlfriend says she's gender fluid, but I think that's just because she keeps getting less attractive. She wasn't that hot when we started dating, but she made herself look hotter by putting up pics of her surrounded by a ton of hot girls on her dating profile. Classic duff tactic. What's a duff? I asked. Designated ugly fat friend. Every group of girls has one. You don't get out much, do you? I don't, and this is why. Isn't everyone your age supposed to be like crazy liberal and politically correct, I asked. Nah, the rich ones and the stupid who want to be liked by the rich ones are. Broke ones like me, we don't got time for that. Don't give up hope, man. Those guys might reunite and make the movie. Shit, my brand breaks up twice a week. Every show is a reunion. At least he played a real instrument and could stay off his cell phone long enough to have a conversation. Maybe there was hope for the future. I told him, I don't think so. The guy who played Egon and wrote the original, he's dead. And Bill Murray and the cast doesn't want to do it, so I'll move on. Who's Bill Murray? He asked. Who's Bill Murray? I shouted. He was the guy who played Ray, said his friend. He put his head back down on the table, the first and only words he'd share, and he had just become my new best friend. Sweet. He dropped the Ray bomb right there. Told you, when this guy talks, your brain fucking melts. Okay, we out. Peace. You're leaving? Why'd you come in? You didn't even buy anything. I don't know why I was stopping them from leaving. No, we just came in here so I could pay my weed dealer. Your weed dealer works here? No, I needed the Wi-Fi, he told me. Paid him Apple Pay. Why would a drug dealer need a part-time job? Ironically, I'm pretty sure that most of the people that work here had master's degrees, and were in fact working second part-time jobs. He looked out the window. Speaking of which, here he comes. Right on time. All right, now we out. You sure you don't want to come? YOLO. No, I'm good. What does YOLO mean? Jesus Christ, how old are you? You only live once. And no offense, but time is not on your side, brah. They left. Finally. Ted said, Let me guess. You're more offended that he didn't know who Bill Murray was, more than that he called you old. I told Ted, You get me. You know, I saw him again yesterday, Bill Murray. on the street. Seeing celebrities on the streets of New York was nothing new, but I saw Bill Murray everywhere. Ted pierced his lips and shifted his eyes. Without saying anything, he said everything. What? What's with that look? You don't believe me? He started laughing. Why are you laughing? He never made eye contact with me, and he was pretending to drink more of his coffee from a cup that I knew, based on the fact that he wasn't wincing after every sip, now had to be empty. Okay, fine, I believe you. Think you saw Bill Murray. What, is that like the 10th time this month? I see him a lot. Why is that so hard to believe? So you and Bill Murray hang out in the same places. How come you never take his picture or ask him for an autograph? It wasn't like Bill Murray and I are at the same places. He was always walking across the street, but I saw him a lot. I'm sure of it. I got LASIK. What am I going to do with an autograph? He just wants to live his life. He once signed an autograph for a 6-year-old with Sydney, run away from home tonight, Bill Murray. And Hal Ramis said he bit a guy on the nose on the street, and all he said to him was that he liked SNL. Because I don't want to be one of those I don't want to be one of those fanboy paparazzi. But you are a fanboy, Ted told me. You went to a midnight screening of Garfield and he was just the voice. The only reason he did the movie was because he thought it was written by someone else. First, not a bad movie. Neither was Garfield 2, A Tale of Two Kitties. And second, that could have happened to anybody. He did it because he thought it was written by Joel Cohen, who wrote Fargo. I mean, that guy, he's an Academy Award winner. You can't turn him down. But it was another Joel Cohen, the one who wrote, Garfield. Why do you know this? I think you're like one of those religious freaks who sees Jesus in a pancake. Have you seen Bill Murray in a pancake? Ted asked me. Suddenly, I started to feel for all of those mocked Southerners whose UFO footage had been written off as frisbees by society. My phone vibrated with a text from Claudia asking, "What time?" I looked up at Ted and told him, "Shit, I gotta run. I'm hanging out with Claudia." "Why don't you ever ask me to hang out with you two?" Ted asked. "Because she hates you." "She hates me? She doesn't hate me." Ted couldn't imagine someone hating him, but he was in fact as hateable as he was likable. "She hates you. She thinks you're sexist," I told him. "What? No, she doesn't," he said. "She knows I'm a feminist. That's why she's always sending me the social justice books her company publishes." If you have sex with different women every day, like Ted, one could argue you love women too much, but few would stamp your feminist card, let alone a feminist. "She sends them because she thinks you need them," I told him. I struck a nerve. "What? That's bullshit. I am the feminist's ally." "Well, they don't want you," I told him. "Look, I gotta go. Oh, and so I was fired from my job today." "I know. Your coworker Dave put up a status update on Facebook about that." "I'm sorry." "Why was he sorry? As far as I was concerned, this was the best thing that could have happened to me." "What happened?" he asked. "I'll show you." I reached for my bag and brought out my book. I had intended to give it to him before I got here, but I didn't because, as much as I do want feedback on my book, all I really want to hear is that it's great and it's going to solve all my problems. That seems like a big expectation to hand over disguised as just a book. "You'll like this," he read off the cover. "What is this? Whose thumb is that?" "It's a book. I wrote it. It's my thumb." I was giving a thumbs up on the cover like the one you click on Facebook. "You wrote a book? That's amazing. You didn't tell me you were writing a book. Look how long this is. This must have taken years. Why didn't you tell me you were writing a book?" "Years. It took a few weeks," I told him. I felt weird about it. Like, who the hell am I to write a book, you know? I had written a ton of stuff that I never shared with anyone or done anything with until now. My sharing had been limited to 420 characters. Who are you? Come on! Where's that deep V-neck confidence? This is a true accomplishment. What is it about? I told him. Nothing. It's a collection of my Facebook status updates. Ted sat there, and for the first time I had known him, he looked like he didn't know what to say, but it was probably in my head. Ted said, "I don't know what to say." "You turn your Facebook into a book?" "Yeah. You know, people are always clicking and liking my status updates and telling me how funny they are. I turned them into a real book." "So there's no story? How'd you get fired for this?" "My boss. He didn't like it." Ted started flipping through it. He stopped on a page and read, "When I dropped decaf coffee in my lap, it wakes me up just as much as regular. That's kind of funny. He continued to read, but stopped reading out loud. I didn't realize you weren't quoting other people with all that shit you put on Facebook. Quotes are for those with nothing to say, I told him. So what's next? How are you going to get this published? He asked. I'm going to self-publish it. Today anybody can publish anything, I told him. And you're someone with something, he said. I think getting fired was a sign. And I just need to, go for it, I told him. Remember this morning when you said I never go for things? Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. What the fuck do I know? No, you were right, I assured him. I was mad at the time, but the longer it sat with me, the more I realized it was the truth that I needed to hear. So you're not going to look for another job until you publish this? He asked as he flipped through the book. Well, you know what they say. Keep putting all your eggs in one basket and eventually you'll get a chicken. I replied, it's like with Lydia. I'm not glad she dumped me, but maybe it's for the best. Sure, she was hot, but there's other women out there. Women I've never taken a shot with. I've always wanted to date a goth chick. Now I can. I can spread my wings, branch out. You want to date a goth chick? But you're not a goth guy. So? So I think they like to stick to their own, he told me. I told him, I'm sure there's a girl dressed in all black with dark makeup and tattoos somewhere right now telling her friend, I totally want to date a generic-looking guy with no job. That's where I come in. He paused and said, Look, I'm an artist, so I certainly don't advocate for the relentless pursuit of money, but remember the last time you felt liberated? I did. It was when I broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years. Yeah, I said, back when I broke up with Kaylin. Right, back when you broke up with Kaylin. And didn't that cost you about $12,000? Kaylin had made me pay off a lease I had signed for an apartment that I was no longer living in. YOLO. You only lease once. Ted continued. So I'm just saying, how much more liberation can you afford? Well, it's like they say, freedom isn't free. My phone vibrated again with another text from Claudia. Fuck, I gotta go, I told him. Say hi to Bill Murray for me, he said with a wave. Maybe he was right. Maybe I should have been spending my time uploading my resume and cover letter instead of on coffee and talking to teenage stoners. It was only a matter of time before my savings depleted, before my severance pay stopped, unemployment insurance would eventually stop. Ted was right. How much freedom could I afford? Claudia and I were meeting for lunch, but really, I wanted her feedback on my book because she worked in publishing. As a kid, I gave away any piece of crap I scribbled and drew with crayons with the expectation of it being hung on the refrigerator. From grades to art, the refrigerator was the pinnacle of pre-adolescent achievement. Now what was it? Getting something retweeted by a celebrity? Writing a book, I'd never been more proud of anything that I had done. Volunteering, a 5K. But I handed it over with the type of apprehension usually reserved for sober karaoke singing. You know the phrase, it's better to be thought of as an idiot than open your mouth and remove all doubt? Well, I may have documented it in the form of 308 pages, 70,000 words, and a print shop spiral binding.